Imagine for a moment that you're in the middle of a storm, not just any storm, but one where every lightning strike is a jab at your confidence, every gust of wind a challenge to your calm. The instinct in us is to fight back, to lash out, to prove ourselves right in the face of opposition. But what if I told you the real power, the deeper strength, doesn't come from fighting back, but from fooling them? You see, our brains are wired to respond to threats with aggression, a primal flight mechanism that served us well for survival. But in today's complex social world, this reflex can trap us in endless conflict, draining energy and clouding judgment. What if instead of reacting, we choose to outsmart, to disarm, to redirect the tension in a way that leaves the aggressor confused and powerless? Neuroscience reveals that when you resist the urge to confront head-on, your brain activates higher order areas involved in strategic thinking and emotional regulation. You're not suppressing your feelings, you're transforming them into tools for influence. By not fighting back, you essentially hijack the attacker's expectations, and this unpredictability creates cognitive dissonance. Their mind scrambles, trying to recalibrate what they thought they knew about you. This is not weakness. It's a demonstration of profound control over your internal state and your environment. It's mastery over impulsive reactions. When you fool them, you hold the power to diffuse the situation before it escalates. You preserve your energy, maintain your focus, and create space to act with intention rather than reaction. Remember, the greatest warriors in history didn't always win by brute force. They won by strategy, patience, and often by making their opponents underestimate them. The key is cultivating calm in chaos and silence in noise. The brain thrives in this space, forging neural pathways of resilience, empathy, and insight. So next time you're faced with conflict, remember, the most effective response might be the one they never see coming. Don't fight back, fool them, outthink them. Rise above with the quiet strength of a mind that refuses to be controlled. Imagine for a moment that your brain is a finely tuned instrument, shaped by millions of years of evolution, designed first and foremost for survival. At the core of this design lies a powerful neural circuit, the fight-or-flight response. When you perceive a threat, whether physical or social, your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, fires up, triggering a cascade of hormonal and neural reactions. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your mind narrows its focus on the source of danger. This is the ancient wiring that helped our ancestors survive predators and life-threatening situations. But here's the critical insight. In modern life, many of the threats we face are not predators in the jungle but social conflicts, misunderstandings, and provocations. Our brains don't differentiate well between these symbolic threats and real physical danger, so that same powerful fight response kicks in, pushing us toward aggression or confrontation. While this instinct might feel natural and justified, it's often counterproductive in complex social environments. It can escalate conflicts, cloud our judgment, and drain our cognitive resources. What neuroscience teaches us is that awareness of this automatic response is the first step to mastering it. When you recognize that your brain is triggering this primal alarm system, you can pause, engage your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and executive control, and choose a different path. Rather than meeting aggression with aggression, you can redirect your response. This is where the power of fooling them begins. By stepping outside your brain's default wiring, you disrupt the cycle and reclaim control, transforming what feels like a threat into an opportunity for strategic advantage. When you engage in a fight, whether verbal, emotional, or physical, you're not just expending energy in that moment. What's happening beneath the surface is a complex neurochemical storm. Your sympathetic nervous system floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing you to attack or defend. This surge is incredibly powerful in short bursts, but if you stay locked in this state, it becomes exhausting. Your brain, especially the prefrontal cortex responsible for clear thinking and decision-making, begins to shut down under the weight of stress hormones. This is why fighting back impulsively often leaves you drained, both mentally and physically, and ironically, less capable of resolving the issue effectively. The energy you spend in the heat of conflict is energy taken away from creativity, problem solving, and long-term planning. It's as if you're running a sprint when what the situation really requires is endurance and strategic pacing. Science also shows that prolonged exposure to stress chemicals impairs memory formation and emotional regulation, making it harder to learn from the situation or respond with nuance next time. Instead of gaining ground, you find yourself stuck in a loop of reactive behavior, constantly on edge. This energy drain creates a vulnerability, not just in the moment, but in how you handle future challenges. So when you choose not to fight back immediately, you're conserving vital neural and physiological resources. This conservation allows you to remain calm, think clearly, and access higher cognitive functions that are essential for outsmarting, rather than simply overpowering your opposition. It's not about weakness, it's about channeling your energy in ways that truly serve your long-term success and mental health. When you resist the primal urge to fight back, something remarkable happens inside your brain. Instead of being hijacked by the amygdala's immediate emotional response, you activate your prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, decision making, and strategic thinking. This part of your brain allows you to step back from the heat of the moment and assess the situation with clarity and calm. Engaging the prefrontal cortex doesn't just give you better judgment. It fundamentally changes how your brain processes conflict. You move from reactive survival mode into a proactive problem-solving stance. This shift opens up neural pathways associated with creativity, long-term planning, and emotional regulation. Instead of being consumed by anger or frustration, you harness these feelings as information, signals to guide your next move, rather than impulses to act on immediately. Neuroscientific research shows that when the prefrontal cortex is actively engaged, it exerts top-down control over the limbic system, dampening emotional reactivity and enabling you to make decisions aligned with your values and goals. This means you're not just avoiding conflict. You're consciously choosing responses that maintain your power and preserve your mental resources. By not fighting back in the heat of the moment, you essentially train your brain to operate at a higher level, one where patience, strategy, and emotional intelligence dominate. This neurological advantage allows you to fool those who expect you to react impulsively, giving you the upper hand in any interaction or challenge. It's a subtle but profound demonstration of control, the hallmark of true strength. When you choose not to respond in the way someone expects, when you don't meet aggression with aggression, you create a phenomenon neuroscientists refer to as cognitive dissonance in your opponent's brain. Their expectations are wired around predictable patterns. They provoke, and you retaliate. They push, and you push back. This predictable feedback loop is what gives them a sense of control and power. But when you break that loop, when you respond with calm or silence, their brain struggles to reconcile this unexpected behavior with their internal model of the interaction. The prefrontal cortex of your opponent scrambles to make sense of this new, contradictory information. This causes a kind of mental pause, a confusion or hesitation. That disrupts their ability to continue their aggressive or manipulative behavior effectively. This cognitive dissonance is a powerful tool because it interrupts the automatic neural pathways they rely on to maintain dominance. The moment they are forced to reassess you, to update their internal narrative, you've shifted the balance of power. Their brain expends valuable cognitive resources trying to decode your behavior, resources that would otherwise fuel continued hostility or control. In this way, by simply not fighting back, you don't just preserve your own mental energy, you actively undermine theirs. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability is a form of power. It creates a neurological dissonance that buys you time, space, and the upper hand. Fooling them is not about deception in a negative sense. It's about strategic disruption of their expectations, which neurologically incapacitates their capacity to dominate the interaction. This subtle shift in control is one of the most profound yet underappreciated strategies in conflict resolution. Emotions are incredibly powerful signals generated by the brain, designed to guide our behavior and decision making. When faced with conflict or provocation, it's natural to feel anger, frustration, or fear. These emotions activate neural circuits that prepare you to respond. The key isn't to suppress or deny these feelings, which often leads to internal tension and even more stress, but rather to transform them into a source of strength and influence. Neuroscience shows that emotional regulation involves engaging the prefrontal cortex to modulate the intensity and expression of these raw feelings. When you choose not to fight back, you're not shutting down your emotions. Instead, you're redirecting them. The energy behind your anger or frustration can be harnessed to fuel calm, calculated decision making. This process rewires your brain to channel emotional arousal into adaptive behaviors rather than impulsive reactions. By doing this, you create a feedback loop where your emotions become tools of strategic influence. Your opponent expects you to react aggressively, but instead you respond with composure and insight. This unexpected emotional control can unsettle them, making your presence more commanding without ever raising your voice or escalating conflict. The transformation of emotion into power is one of the brain's most sophisticated feats. It requires practice and mindfulness, but it grants you access to a deeper level of mental resilience. You maintain inner equilibrium even as external pressures rise. This emotional mastery is not about denial, it's about evolution of how you relate to your feelings, turning what might feel like vulnerability into your greatest source of strength. When you choose not to engage in immediate conflict, you're preserving something far more valuable than just the moment. You're maintaining your mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. The brain thrives in a state of calm alertness, where the prefrontal cortex functions optimally, allowing you to process information, regulate emotions, and make decisions with precision. But when you react impulsively or get drawn into a fight, that delicate balance is disrupted. Stress hormones like cortisol flood your system, impairing cognitive flexibility and shrinking the very brain regions responsible for thoughtful responses. Your vision narrows, your thinking becomes rigid, and your ability to see the bigger picture diminishes. This is why fighting back in the heat of the moment often leads to mistakes, missed opportunities, and regrettable words. By stepping back and not reacting, you create a neurological environment where your brain can operate at peak performance. This calm state enhances your ability to access long-term memory, integrate new information, and consider multiple perspectives, all crucial for outmaneuvering conflict rather than just surviving it. You're not just avoiding unnecessary chaos. You're cultivating the conditions necessary for strategic thinking and emotional resilience. In essence, maintaining calm and focus is like keeping your mental workspace clean and organized. It allows you to think clearly, respond appropriately, and maintain control over the situation. This preserved focus becomes your greatest asset, giving you the edge to outthink and outlast those who expect you to crumble under pressure. History and neuroscience converge on a powerful truth. True strength rarely lies in brute force or immediate retaliation. The greatest warriors, leaders, and influencers understood that raw power alone is insufficient. Instead, they relied on strategy, patience, and the ability to outthink their opponents. Neuroscience supports this by showing how the brain's highest functions, planning, foresight, and impulse control, reside in the prefrontal cortex, which enables you to think several moves ahead rather than reacting reflexively. When you fight back impulsively, you're often acting from the limbic system, the brain's emotional center, which prioritizes immediate survival over long-term success. But when you engage the prefrontal cortex, you shift into a mode of calculated patience, weighing consequences, and timing your actions with precision. This strategic approach confounds opponents who expect quick, emotional reactions. Moreover, patience allows your brain to access creativity and problem-solving networks, generating novel solutions that brute force could never achieve. It's a form of mental agility that keeps you adaptable and unpredictable. This unpredictability is itself a form of power. It disrupts your opponent's expectations and undermines their confidence. So, true strength is rooted not in overpowering your opponent at the moment, but in patiently navigating the conflict landscape, waiting for the precise moment to act with maximum effect. This is the hallmark of mastery, using your brain's highest capacities to win not just the immediate battle, but the war itself. When you choose to not engage in immediate conflict and instead respond with calm and strategy, you are actively shaping your brain's architecture. Neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself, is at work here. Every time you resist the urge to fight back impulsively, you strengthen neural pathways associated with resilience, emotional regulation, and empathy. These neural circuits, primarily involving the prefrontal cortex and its communication with the limbic system, become more efficient and robust. Over time, this rewiring enhances your capacity to remain composed under pressure, to understand others' perspectives without becoming overwhelmed by emotion, and to adapt flexibly to new challenges. This process isn't just about managing stress in the moment. It fundamentally changes how your brain operates long-term. You're essentially training your mind to default to higher order thinking rather than reactive impulses. The more you practice this, the more your brain becomes wired for resilience, a state where stress no longer debilitates you, but instead becomes a signal for focused action. Empathy also plays a crucial role. By not meeting aggression with aggression, you create space to understand the underlying motivations or fears driving others' behavior. This deeper insight can diffuse tension and open pathways for genuine connection or resolution, which further strengthens your mental and emotional toolkit. In essence, choosing to fool them rather than fight them is a form of mental training that builds a brain optimized for resilience, adaptability, and emotional intelligence, qualities that serve you far beyond any single conflict. The core of true power lies not in controlling the external world, but in mastering your internal state. Neuroscience teaches us that the brain is constantly balancing between external stimuli and internal regulation. When faced with conflict, your ability to regulate your emotions, impulses, and thoughts determines your response, not the actions of others. This mastery begins with awareness, recognizing the automatic reactions your brain triggers when provoked. The amygdala may ignite fear or anger, but it is the prefrontal cortex that decides whether those impulses translate into action. By strengthening this top-down control, you cultivate a mental environment where you are not a slave to immediate emotional drives, but the architect of your responses. This internal control reshapes neural pathways, making calm, deliberate responses more automatic over time. It also reduces the likelihood of being hijacked by stress hormones that impair judgment and cognitive flexibility. In practical terms, this means you can maintain clarity and composure even in the most charged situations. Mastery of your internal state creates a buffer zone, a psychological and physiological space between stimulus and response. Within this space lies the freedom to choose your actions consciously rather than react unconsciously. This is where true power resides, in the ability to steer your mind and body toward outcomes that serve your long-term goals, regardless of external provocations. Ultimately, by mastering your internal state, you become unshakable. No matter the external chaos, your mind remains a place of stability and strength, which is the foundation for fooling others, not through deception, but through unwavering control and strategic calm. The most effective victories are often the quietest ones, unfolding not through loud confrontation, but through calm, calculated responses that catch others off guard. Neuroscience reveals that when you maintain composure and think strategically, you engage brain networks responsible for self-control, problem-solving, and long-term planning. This quiet strength is a signal of high neural efficiency, a brain operating with precision rather than impulsivity. When opponents expect you to react emotionally or defensively, and instead you respond with measured calm, you disrupt their neural predictions. This unpredictability creates uncertainty in their minds, making it harder for them to anticipate your next move or maintain dominance. In effect, your calm becomes a form of psychological leverage. This silent power is also protective. It preserves your cognitive resources and emotional energy, allowing you to stay focused on your goals rather than getting caught up in the chaos of conflict. It positions you as a leader, someone who navigates challenges with grace and intelligence rather than aggression. Ultimately, winning quietly is about mastering yourself first, cultivating an internal state so steady and resilient that external provocations have little sway. This internal mastery radiates outward, influencing the dynamics around you without the need for force. It's the subtle art of fooling them by being unshakable, turning your calm into the most potent weapon in any conflict.